The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
You just see cuts happen.
What did that, Lieutenant?
I don't know.
Tina!
What's the coroner got to say?
He's in the jar and puking since he saw it.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy? There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
No!
She's the only one who can stop it. If she fails,
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
no one will survive.
Picture a dark hallway. The camera moves slowly, almost too slowly, down a suburban street on Halloween night. Jack. Lanterns sit on porches. Leaves drift across empty sidewalks. And then you see him standing between two houses in the dark, completely still, watching, not running, not threatening, just watching, and somehow that stillness is the most terrifying thing you have ever seen on a television screen. You were maybe 12, maybe 15. The house was finally quiet. Everyone else had gone to bed. You had the volume turned down low enough that you could still hear the floor creak upstairs, and you were not entirely sure if that sound was the house settling or something else. The horror section at Blockbuster had given you that tape. You had picked it off the shelf, because the cover art looked like something your parents would not approve of, which was recommendation enough. What you were not prepared for was the way that film would follow you home. Not in your backpack. Somewhere deeper than that. Tonight we are going back 7 films. 7 reasons why an entire generation of Americans still checks the back seat before they get in the car at night and still hesitates, just for half a second before opening the shower curtain. These are the slasher films that did not just scare you once. They rewired something. The ones where the killer was not some distant monster, but a shape that could be standing in your backyard right now, and you would not know it until it was too late. One film on this list is not the name you expect to see here. It came before the genre had a name, before the rules existed, and it made everything else possible. Without it, none of the others get made. That entry alone is worth staying for. And before we are done, one scene on this list will bring it all back. The exact room you were sitting in, the exact feeling in your chest, when the music dropped out and the screen went quiet, and you realized, too late, that the scary part had not happened yet. 7 films. Let's go back.
This is the movie that Rex Reed called the most horrifying motion picture I have ever seen. This film is positively ruthless in its attempt to drive you right out of your mind. It accomplishes everything it sets out to do with brilliance and unparalleled terror. This is the horror movie to end them all. This is the movie Rex Reed called the most horrifying motion picture I have ever seen. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, from New Line Cinema.
Before Halloween had a shape, before Freddy had a name, before any of the rules existed, there was this film, and it did not feel like a film at all. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre arrived in 1974 looking like something that should not exist. Shot on 16, in the brutal Texas summer heat, it had the texture of found footage before anyone knew what found footage was. No orchestral score building. Director Tobe Hooper understood something that most horror filmmakers of the era had not figured out yet. The scariest thing you can put on screen is not a monster. It is the feeling that what you are, a van running low on gas, a farmhouse they should never have walked into, the paranoia of 1974 America, that creeping national suspicion that the news was not reporting, that the world beyond your front door was fundamentally less safe and relentless, in a house that smells like something gone terribly wrong. The peak terror moment does not involve a chainsaw at all. It is a sliding metal door, a girl hanging in the dark, the sudden silence after the chaos. That moment lands harder than any kill in the film because it tells you without a single word that no one is coming to help. Every slasher film made after 1974 owes this one, a debt it can never fully repay. No sequel honored it, no remake captured it, and the question it leaves behind is the simplest and most devastating in the genre. What do you do when you knock on the wrong door, and there is no road back to the one you came from?
Halloween night. A small American town. 15 years ago.
Michael?
Halloween.
Okay, come on out. Halloween. The night he came home.
4 years after Leatherface kicked the door off its hinges, John Carpenter walked it back into the suburbs and hung it on a white picket fence. Halloween is the film that industrialized fear, not because it was the first, but because it was the most precise. Carpenter took everything raw and jagged about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and refined it into something almost mathematical in its dread. Haddonfield, Illinois looks exactly like the neighborhood you grew up in. The streets are familiar, the houses are familiar, the babysitters and the teenagers and the autumn leaves are all familiar. That familiarity is the weapon. Michael Myers does not come from some distant, unknowable place. He comes from the house at the end of your block, the one with the dark windows, the one the neighborhood kids always cross the street to avoid. What made 1978 audiences grip their armrests was not the kills, it was the patience. Michael stands in backyards. Michael watches from across the street. Michael is simply there, in the frame, in the background, and half the time you do not notice him until he has already been watching for 30 seconds. Carpenter understood that anticipation is more corrosive than shock. The score, those repeating piano notes in 5/4 time, does not startle you. It erodes you. The peak terror moment is a closet door that opens the wrong way. Jamie Lee Curtis, breath held, fingers pressed against wood, and then that white mask inches from her face in the dark. No jump cut, no musical sting, just two faces, one terrified and one completely empty, separated by nothing at all. Halloween launched a franchise that diluted it with every entry, and a remake cycle that never understood why the original worked. What it left behind is a shape standing in your yard that you cannot reason with, cannot negotiate with, and cannot outrun. The question Halloween asks is the one no suburban American of that era wanted to answer. What if evil was not somewhere out there, but right here, in the quiet street, waiting for the porch light to go off? Halloween made you afraid of your neighborhood. Friday the 13th made you afraid of summer. Camp Crystal Lake arrived 2 years after Haddonfield, and went somewhere Halloween deliberately avoided. The American wilderness, the summer camp, the place parents sent their children, and assumed safety because nature felt innocent. Director Sean S. Cunningham understood that the most effective horror borrows its setting from the places its audience associates with freedom. Teenagers away from home for the first time, no parents, no rules, a lake that looks beautiful in the daylight. Friday the 13th took that image and rotted it from the inside. What the film did, that its dozens of imitators never quite replicated, was keep its killer hidden for almost the entire runtime. The fear in Friday the 13th is not Jason, not in this first film. It is the point of view camera moving through the trees, watching the counselors, patient and purposeful. You see what the killer sees. You are implicated. Every scene of teenagers laughing and kissing and being young is filmed with the understanding that something is watching them enjoy being alive and resenting every second of it. The peak terror moment is not a kill. It is Adrian King alone on the lake at dawn, the water perfectly still, the worst of it apparently over, and then the surface breaks. That single image has lived rent, free in the unconscious of an entire generation ever since. Friday the 13th spawned 11 sequels, a crossover, and a remake, almost none of which understood that the original's power came from restraint. What it left behind is something simpler and more durable than any franchise mythology. The knowledge that beautiful places are not safe places, and that the water that looks so peaceful in the morning is the same water that will be there when the light goes out.
The kids of Elm Street don't know it yet, but something is coming to get them.
There's something out there, isn't there?
You could just see cuts happen. What did that, Lieutenant?
I don't know.
Tina!
What the coroner got to say?
He's in the John puking since he saw it.
They're gonna kill me for sure.
Did you do it?
There was somebody else there.
He was locked in a room with a girl who went in alive and came out in a rubber bag.
No one knows where it came from or who it will visit next.
Nancy? There's something wrong with you. You're imagining things.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Do you believe in the boogeyman?
No.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep.
No!
She's the only one who can stop it. If she fails,
I'm your boyfriend now, Nancy.
no one will survive.
Every slasher before Freddy Krueger needed you to be awake. Wes Craven changed the terms entirely. A Nightmare on Elm Street is the only film in this list that made its audience genuinely reconsider the act of going to sleep. Not metaphorically. Literally, teenagers in 1984 left that theater and lay in bed staring at the ceiling, negotiating with themselves, because the film had just spent 90 minutes establishing that the place you go every night to recover, to rest, to be most vulnerable, was exactly where something was waiting for you. Craven was working from a real anxiety. Newspaper stories about Southeast Asian refugees dying in their sleep from nightmares, so severe their hearts gave out. He took that documented, unexplained phenomenon and built a monster around it. Freddy Krueger is different from every other killer in this list, because he requires your participation. You have to sleep. You cannot choose otherwise. Michael Myers you might theoretically outrun. Jason you might theoretically hide from. Freddy finds you in a place you cannot barricade, cannot light up, cannot call for help from. The 1980s context matters here. This was a decade defined by the terror of things invisible and unstoppable, and Freddy is the perfect emblem of that anxiety made flesh and fitted with a glove. The peak terror moment is a ceiling. Johnny Depp, in his film debut, pulled upward into a mattress, while the room fills with something that should not be possible. The visual is absurd on paper, and absolutely devastating on screen, because Craven shoots it with the complete internal logic of a nightmare, which is to say no logic at all, and somehow that makes it worse. The sequels turned Freddy into a comedian, and nearly destroyed what the original built. What a Nightmare on Elm Street left behind is a question with no satisfying answer. If the danger lives inside the one thing your body cannot refuse to do, what exactly is your plan?
I have seen the future of horror. His name is Clive Barker. Hellraiser. Beyond any terror you have imagined. A nightmare.
No.
Unlike anything you have witnessed, is born. Because within these walls, the unholy is unleashed. A film by Clive Barker.
We'll tear your soul apart.
Every killer in this list comes to you uninvited. Hellraiser was the first to point out that you sent the invitation yourself. Clive Barker's 1987 film is the outlier on this list, and exactly the right kind of outlier. It is not purely a slasher. It is something older and more deliberate. A film about desire taken to its absolute terminus. The Cenobites, led by the being the audience would come to call Pinhead, are not villains in any conventional sense. They are the answer to a question a man named Frank asked when he solved the lament configuration, a puzzle box that opens a door to experiences beyond the limits of ordinary sensation. They came because they were called. That is the distinction that makes Hellraiser different from everything else released in the same decade, and the distinction that made it last. The 1980s horror landscape was crowded with killers who chose their victims. Barker wrote Killers Who Were Chosen. The film connects to a specifically adult anxiety, not the teenage fear of being hunted, but the mature understanding that some appetites, if you feed them long enough, will eventually consume everything you had before them. Frank does not stumble into the Cenobites. He goes looking for them. That decision haunts every frame of the film. The peak terror moment is not a Cenobite at all. It is a man reconstructing himself from nothing in an attic, using what he should not have access to, becoming something that wears a face you used to trust. The horror is not supernatural. It is recognizing someone you loved in a thing you should run from. Hellraiser spawned a franchise that collapsed almost immediately into direct-to-video territory and lost everything that made the original dangerous. What it left behind is the one question in this entire list that has nothing to do with survival. If the door opened because you wanted to, does that change what comes through?
Someone is playing a deadly game.
It all began with a scream over 911.
Someone who's seen one too many scary movies. Now he's taken his love of fear.
Hello?
Hello, Sydney.
One step too far.
Do you like scary movies?
What's the point? They're all the same. Some stupid killer stalking some big-breasted girl who can't act, who's always running up the stairs when she should be going out the front door. It's insulting.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a scary movie. Number one, you can never have sex.
It's me.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back. Get another beer, you want one? Yeah, sure. I'll be right back.
He didn't make the rules.
The police are always on track. If they watch prom night, they save time.
He just kills by them. Don't answer the phone. Don't open the door. Don't try to hide.
Everybody, the suspect!
Every film on this list built the rules. Scream arrived in 1996 and read them back to you while someone was dying on the phone. Wes Craven's return to the genre he helped define is the most formally intelligent slasher film ever made, and also, somehow, one of the most genuinely frightening that combination should not work. A film that openly discusses the conventions of horror movies, while operating entirely within them, should collapse under the weight of its own self-awareness. Instead, it functions as both a love letter and a loaded weapon, aimed directly at the audience that had grown up on everything that came before it. The Gen X teenagers in those 1996 theater seats had seen Halloween and Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. They knew the rules. Ghostface knew. They knew the rules. That shared knowledge is what Scream uses to kill them anyway. The film is set in a decade that had grown ironic about everything, including fear, and Craven understood that irony is not armor. Knowing that the character who goes upstairs to investigate is going to die does not stop you from going upstairs. Scream takes that insight and builds a trap out of it. The killer is not supernatural. The killer is someone who watched the same movies the audience watched and took notes. The peak terror moment is a phone call in an empty house. Drew Barrymore, who the marketing told you was the star, realizing that the voice on the other end of the line has been watching her through the window the entire time. The film ends her story in its first 10 minutes, and in doing so, tells the audience, clearly and without apology, that it is not going to play by the rules it just finished explaining. Scream revived an entire genre that had run out of ideas and launched a franchise that has continued for nearly 3 decades. What it left behind is the most uncomfortable legacy on this list. The knowledge that understanding exactly how something works does not make you safe from it. The call is coming from inside the genre. It always was. These 7 films are not really about chainsaws or knives or hooks or puzzle boxes. They never were. They are about the fears that a generation carried quietly into adulthood and never fully set down. The fear that the familiar place is not safe, that the person you trust is not who you think, that something patient has been waiting in a space you walk past every single day, and the only reason nothing has happened yet is that it has not decided to move. These films did not invent those fears. They recognized them, named them, put them on screen in the dark, and let an entire generation of Americans sit with the confirmation that yes, you were right to be afraid, and no, knowing that does not help. The VHS tape is gone. The Blockbuster on the corner is a memory. But somewhere right now, a teenager is watching one of these films for the first time on a phone in a dark bedroom with earbuds in, and they are feeling exactly what you felt the first time, because these films were built to last longer than the format they came in on. Which scene still lives in your head? Not the one you talk about, the one that comes back at 2 in the morning when the house makes a sound it should not make. Drop it in the comments, and tell me which film on this list you watched alone for the first time, where you were, and whether you finished it or turned it off, and told yourself you would come back to it later. If this list brought something back, hit like. If you want to be here for the next one, subscribe, because next time we are going somewhere the critics dismissed and the audiences forgot. And we are going to talk about the slasher films that nobody took seriously when they came out, and that nobody who saw them on a late-night cable channel in 1991 has ever been able to fully shake. The ones that got away, the ones that should have been on every list and never were. The next tape is already rewound. We will see you in the dark.
Subscribe for the next nightmare.